Hi again, I'm still Bogdan Khashiev, and I'm the User Acquisition Team Lead at AdQuantum. This is our second lecture in User Acquisition Cycle. In this lecture, we're going to delve into the world of unfamiliar and relatively new mobile games and apps that haven't yet hit the jackpot. I mean, let's face it, not every app is going to make it big, but we're here to help you give it a fighting chance. So, whether your app is just soft-launched or you're promoting an existing new app, it's important to spend your budget wisely. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Before conducting the first round of testing, it's crucial to learn how to evaluate a product and analyze its marketing funnel. First things first, a UA manager should thoroughly test the waters and dive into the product as deeply as possible. Here are the steps you should take before moving on to the primary UA testing. To begin with, it's important to determine your app's monetization model, including in-app ads and purchases shares. We cover this topic in more detail in our first lecture, so be sure to check it out if you haven't already. Once you've determined the share of in-app ads and purchases, you can explore the various strategies and optimization available for your app. The second step is to assess whether your app has already experienced a creative fatigue, and to determine its current number of installs. This will help you define your initial approach to your creative strategy and decide whether to focus more on core-oriented ads or misleading ones. Typically, core-oriented ads are used for relatively new projects, while misleading and meta-misleading ads are used for apps that have already passed the stages of launch and initial promotion, and have accumulated between 500,000 and 1 million installs. Thirdly, you should explore the traffic sources and countries where your app has been or is being promoted. This will highlight potential growth opportunities for your overall user acquisition strategy and within a single ad channel. Moving on to step 4, it's important to evaluate both the quantity and quality of competitors. This will give you valuable insights into how much money is being spent on similar apps, the types of creatives that are being used, and which countries are performing the best. Last but not the least, step 5 involves assessing the number and quality of ads that the advertiser has used already to promote the app. This will provide you with an overview of the range of creative strategies that have been tried this far, and whether they have been effective or not. Now we will use Apptica intelligent tools to gather data on our competitors. Let's go to Top Apps section. Here we have a list of apps with information on their publishers, the number of downloads and revenue for the selected period of time. Above this list, we have filters, which will help us narrow our search by platform, country, category, and the amount of revenue and downloads. These are the main filters. We also have these additional filters right here, which contain such sections as whether the app has or hasn't any in-app purchases in it, whether there are specific SDKs installed within this app, and, for example, the distribution share of gender of its core audience. So let's say we want to find top downloads app for India, which monetize on purchases, have a Unity SDK installed, and is from casual game category. So we search for India here. Casual games. We also say yes to in-app purchases. It should also has a Unity SDK. Okay, so now we found the top app according to our search filters. So let's click on the icon and go to the app page. Here we have an image of App Store optimization page, app rating, gender split of audience, and other information such as social links, versions, release dates, overall country ratings, and etc. But our primo page is this one, downloads and revenue. So here we can get the numerical and visual data on numbers of the numerical and visual data on numbers of downloads and revenue, both organic and paid. If we choose to click on this button right here, we can actually see the distribution of organic and paid downloads. So as with previous section, we can customize our time range and narrow our search by country. Once we've selected specific geos or number of geos, we can study the uplifts and specific points in time, and Apptica will show us whether there has been a new creative or featuring for the specific geo. And it also shows the source that utilized these new creatives. So let's try United States, for example, and we shall study, let's say, these downloads uplift right here. As we can see, there were some new creatives added on AdMob network, and once we go there, we can see, and we touched upon this section in our previous lecture, so be sure to check it out. We can see the exact same uplift that we saw on the graph below. The very same options are provided by top publisher section right here, where you can look for specific publishers with all the apps they're promoting, and within the trending app section right here, which shows the dynamics of certain apps in charts. This functionality that Apptica is providing allows us to thoroughly study our competitors' advertising efforts and create strategies for the selected creative strategies for the selected period of time. We can use this intelligence to improve our UA by adding new geos, adding new creatives for these new geos, and adding the combination of geos and creatives to new sources. Once the product evaluation is complete, it's time to focus on numbers and metrics. Gathering as much information as possible is crucial. Therefore, our ideal datasheet should include both top and bottom funnel data, sorted by country and optimization within a single source. Before we dive into the metrics, let's take a closer look at what the marketing funnel comprises. At the top of the funnel are metrics such as cost per install, cost per 1,000 impressions, click-through rate, and click-to-install. These metrics helps us identify areas of potential growth in terms of ad performance. For example, a low click-through rate could indicate that the creatives are too focused on the product's core features and may require some misleading elements. Conversely, low click-to-install rates could suggest over-reliance on misleading ads. Both scenarios aim to decrease the cost per app install. It's also essential to keep an eye out on the CPM, as some sources may have abnormally high values. The bottom of the funnel data is represented by average revenue per user, average revenue per paying user, retention rate on day 1 and day 7, conversion rate to unique purchase, and return on ad spend. These values are related to our KPIs, but more importantly, they show whether we can achieve a profitable CPI-ARPU ratio. Having this information allows us to calculate target CPI and cost per unique pair, and determines whether our set goals are realistic and achievable. Ideally, we have full access to MMP or BI, where we can get all the necessary data. However, some advertisers may be sensitive to sharing data, and sometimes numbers are only partially provided. Even if fully provided, we still need to be able to check the most important indicator, which is ARPU. Okay guys, once again, I would like to go to Apptica Intelligence Platform to show you a little feature, which appears to be quite useful in terms of calculating your benchmarks and KPI for ARPU. Let's come back to app profile section. Let's once again, we will take a look at the game I'm currently promoting, Idle Lumber Empire. And now we will jump to the downloads and revenue section. Here we have this wonderful metric, RPD, which stands for revenue per download, which basically can be counted as ARPU. Let's say we want to learn our competitors' ARPU for Brazil in June. We set up our filters and switch data impressions from day to month. And now we have all the data right here, which can also be exported as CSV for further analysis. We should keep in mind that this metric shows us ARPU for both organic and paid users. The one thing we can do, though, is to measure the revenue uplift in correlation with the growth of organic traffic. All in all, this feature allows us to study our competitors' profitability within a certain geo and analyze whether we can and should aim for better performance metrics. Next, let's discuss how to prepare your primary test plan and allocate your budget wisely. After conducting a thorough assessment of your app, your UA team should prioritize their hypothesis based on their knowledge of the product and rule of moving from general to specific. Knowing your app purpose and core audience allows you to take into account specific audience markers, such as gender, age, or language, so you can exclude related users from the outset. The second rule suggests that the best way to find a performing setup is to prioritize testing broader settings. Here's our suggested tier list of settings ranked from most important to least. Add campaign optimization, including install, up event, and ROAS optimizations, and conversion window. Geos and tiers, worldwide included, placements, lookalike audience, and age and gender. The optimization plus geo combination is the primary subject of your initial testing. Aim to find the most profitable setups and see how they perform on a larger scale. Remember to consider the monetization abilities of your app. Once you have your first performance results, you can start testing other optimization possibilities, such as placements and lookalike audiences that your chosen source can provide. After you find a creatives that shows promising results compared to your expectations from the pre-launch evaluation data, you are ready to start your tests. Any better performing creatives you find along the way should be added to ongoing campaigns and measured in terms of their performance boost. If the boost is significant, consider retesting some of the previous non-performing hypotheses. My personal recommendation for budget allocation is to split your test budget into 3 parts. Allocate a budget for creative testing. Determine the maximum budget per single creative to set the overall budget for ad creatives. Split the remaining budget in a ratio of 2 to 3 and allocate a bigger part of the budget for testing all of your main hypotheses. Keep a third of the budget for scaling the best performing setups or for additional testing of creatives or setups if needed. Remember that your initial test plan can and should be adjusted along the way. If a hypothesis is not showing any signs of decent performance, don't give it a whole budget originally allocated to it. Conversely, if some setups show inconclusive results, do not hesitate to spend more on them to see if they can perform better. Moving on to creative testing, it's crucial to establish a testing system early on to gain a clear understanding of which creatives works best and why, as well as to ensure consistency in your creative production. When selecting a setup for creative testing, there are 2 main factors to consider: relevance and cost effectiveness. To achieve this, you'll need to identify the cheapest setup that performs well. If your app isn't specifically targeted to a particular geo or tier, you can experiment with inexpensive geos like Brazil and Philippines, which have large audiences and decent performance indicators. Apply a performing optimization setups in these geos will bring you a reliable results that can be applied globally. It goes without saying that your test should be documented in a standardized manner. A simple spreadsheet with the necessary metrics will be enough, including spend, CPI, CPM, CTR, CCI, and IPM. We also recommend obtaining retention day 1 data from your MMP or BI to calculate the day 1 player cost metric, which allows you to compare creatives with different misleading and meta-misleading mechanics. If you decide to switch to a new setup, choose the top performing creatives to establish new benchmarks. During the creative testing phase, CR is generally not taken into account, since the amount spent is too low to make any meaningful assumptions. Instead, we conduct the so-called battle tests by using these creatives in our top-performing setups with larger budgets. Another important aspect is to set the right budget to obtain relevant data for each creative. We suggest aiming for 50 to 100 conversions that you expect to obtain from a well-performing creative. Once you establish the desired CPI for your creative test, you can save money by spending less on creatives that show poor results from the beginning. When 25% of your testing budget is spent with a CPI that is twice or higher than your KPI, it's best to let go of that creative. Our experience has shown that this figure is unlikely to decrease to an acceptable level. Finally, let's discuss creative testing on iOS. This becomes an issue when the Android version of the app is not available for conducting all creative tests. In such cases, measuring the bottom of the funnel and the impact of new creatives on overall performance becomes challenging. To address this, we start with the top of the funnel testing to determine which creatives have an acceptable CPI. Next, we use a separate gear, which is not being targeted by any other campaigns at the moment, to test all the creatives that pass the first phase. This helps us measure the revenue uplift and retention rate.